Police Psychics. Findme.
Hello, everyone. This is Kelly Snyder with Valerie Graham with Findme, Police Psychics, and More, produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for Hear Women Talk. Today's guest is Treyce de Gabriel Montoya. That's a mouthful. How are you, Treyce? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great, Kelly.
Did I do that right?
Yes, you did.
Sounds great.
Not too bad, huh, for a rookie radio show host, huh? Anyway, I wanted to have Val jump in here and so going to get carpal tunnel of the tongue reading all of your
absolutely
all of the things that you have going for you in your repertoire. Go ahead, Val.
Some of it we'll kind of keep touching on as we go, but Treyce de Gabriel Montoya is an amazing woman. You are indeed, and you are known, of course, as an international handwriting expert who specializes in criminal profiles and law enforcement training. One of the most fascinating things that you have done is that you've created the handwriting formation therapy, HFT, that continues to change the lives of children, teens, and adults all over the world. And you are teaching, writing, hosting radio shows, and all of that, and maybe people don't get to know you as much, but hopefully they will today on this show. You have written books with fascinating titles. I'll just mention a few. Written Violence, The Personality Behind the Pen, Dangerous Ink, and Finding Mr. and Mrs. Wright, W-R-I-T-E. You are president of the National Association of Handwriting and Document Experts, National Scholars Association. You have a degree in forensic psychology, and you have created all kinds of, or legions of fans, legions of law enforcement that uses you and your service for custody evaluations, jury selection, detecting lies, compatibility, violence assessments. And you're on the advisory board as well of the International Spark of Light Villages. And, of course, Findme. And Treyce, what an amazing, I'm sure there's many more things we're going to put in there as well, but you've just been working in the traditional mental health field much of your life, and you kind of moved in a different direction with the handwriting analysis. How did this all begin?
Well, actually, I started learning handwriting my 11th birthday present. Can you imagine being 11 years old and your birthday present learning forensic handwriting?
It is a tad unusual, I have to say.
I think they thought that I was going to become bored and go back to my Barbie dolls, but I have to tell you, once I started getting my taste buds wet with forensic handwriting, I never looked at my poor Barbies again. In fact, I think I ended up donating them. My mother did, actually, because she was sick of me just leaving them lie there. I never paid attention to them, so somebody got really query Barbies.
that was the beginning.
Yeah, that was actually the beginning, and I grew up in a military family, so the guy who I learned from was the founder of a San Francisco School of Handwriting Studies, and it was in the 60s. And so I'm dating myself, but on my 11th birthday in 1975 is when I started learning it, and he taught me very age-appropriate things. And then when I became 18, I graduated high school, went to the Air Force, and then I actually ended up privately tutoring with him until I was certified by him in 87, and I kind of rolled right into the work because I thought it was just going to be a hobby, and I knew at age 13 I wanted to study psychology, so I thought it was just going to be a hobby or an extra tool. But when he passed away, I actually was given a letter by his attorney saying that I've been basically his replacement, and he introduced me to his clients as his replacement, and it's just kind of taken off after, since then. But I never lose sight of my psychology goal. And when I did work in the traditional field, I realized that there's not a whole lot of people getting a lot of long-term life-enhancing help. They're getting over-medicated, and I thought, this traditional field's not much for me. So I did change my traditional forensic psych degree to metaphysical psychology, and I really like that a whole lot better. It fits me as a person better, and I'm able to help my private clients, I think, a little bit more open-minded approach in helping them, be more person-centered in their therapy as opposed to, this is what we think you should do, kind of a traditional style. So it's definitely been a good fit for me.
What, Treyce, in the handwriting analysis, I mean, it's somewhat of a, sort of a closed term in the sense of, the broadness of what it actually can bring to the table. Can you explain the forensic handwriting analysis, what it is from point A to point B in 7,000 words or less?
Sure. I think the best way to really show it is that if you have your handwriting analyzed, you could go to just anybody, for example, and a regular just a handwriting analyst that studied maybe books or maybe got trained or anything like that, they would say something such as, "Oh, I can see that you have trust issues." Okay, that would be a very blanket kind of statement. But as far as for me, what I would say is something more like, "Well, I can see that based on your sexual abuse at approximately 7 years old, you obviously have trust issues with regarding to men." So there's a lot more forensic detail in it as far as pulling out the psychological part behind it.
Well, in that description, though, I mean, you're not just taking a generic format of someone's handwriting. You're actually dissecting it word by word. Is that pretty close to being truth?
More like letter by letter, because
Okay.
we don't look at the content, we look at the actual specific letter. So
Okay.
it's how the letters are written and not the words that are used.
Okay, so for example, if I'm writing something down on a piece of paper, whether it be related to a case or a murder or anything, it doesn't really matter what the content is, but I'm saying something to the effect, I'm leaving a note on the table, I am going to go on a trip, I'm going to be gone for probably 6 or 7 days, and I'm not going to be, you're not going to be able to reach me. And the reason I brought this particular phrase up is it was used in a case about 4 years ago, and what I just said, by listening to it, you can't necessarily read into what I'm trying to say, but some of the people that were reading this note, because it was sent to many people, are reading it, from a personal standpoint in the individual. So back to the handwriting aspect of it, from what I just said, what would you be looking for in a comment like that that is actually handwritten?
Well, I would be looking, first of all, if I think that there's maybe some deception involved, specifically I'd be looking for deception. Or if the family's kind of questioning things, or there's certain questions around that type of a letter, I'd be looking for deception. I'd be looking for anxiety. I'd be looking for signs of duress. I'd be looking for anything that looks as if the person was perhaps running from something, was under some sort of, maybe an episode of neurosis, or under something where they're hiding, or they're really upset, or they're explosively angry. There's something that could lead to the personality behind what they wrote, as opposed to the content. More like, okay, let's identify the things that are jumping out at us, and then go back and find out why they're jumping out at us. And people that write with anxiety, or they're under duress, or they're very stressed out, or they're very angry, have a specific way of writing, irregardless of the content.
And so you don't really need to know what the family believes is going on here. They just hand you the piece of paper and say, "What do you get from this?" Is that correct?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, Kelly, I just had a case come in a couple days ago, and the detective, he's a new detective. I hadn't worked with this department before, and he called. And many times, detectives, when they consult with another expert of something, they have to give them some sort of background information. This is a case I got. It's a 21-year-old, blah blah blah, whatever the situation might be. So he automatically thought with me that he would have to tell me something like that. So I had to kind of stop him midstream, and I said, no offense or anything, but I like to do this completely unbiased as much as possible. And so I really prefer that you don't tell me anything other than what I'm looking for. If I'm looking for deception or drugs or violence potential or what I'm looking for, other than that, I don't want to know anything until after I give the report. Then if he decides to share information, then that's fine. But up front, no, I don't want anybody's opinion on anything.
What are the different categories within handwriting analysis? I know that there's some, people out there, and I don't know how to describe them. You can maybe help me in that regard, but where people will look at your handwriting and they'll say this, that, and the other, pretty much like what you were saying earlier, versus that of a forensic handwriting analysis.
It's more of the details that go behind it. It's more of, people used to in the day, I haven't seen it now for several years, but they used to be able to go to a state fair or a county fair and scan their handwriting in some machine, and it would kick it out with some kind of very generic, very open terms that would fit 90% of the population.
Right.
And, at that time, it's kind of like your horoscope. You can always see something in there that seems to fit you.
Sure.
But, but with this, it's more of a very specific detail. I could say to somebody more like, I can see that you have anger because your father left you when you were a child. Or I can say something like, I can see that your sexual abuse has caused X, Y, and Z. Or I can say, the world really is a better place with you in it. So the suicidal thoughts that you're having, let's work around those and try to eliminate those.
I noticed that among the things that, in the many, many write-ups about you, that you are able to detect a progression of suicide.
Yeah, and that's actually one of our specialty areas.
How does that work? What do you mean?
Basically, there are certain handwriting indicators that show that somebody's potentially considering or just briefly has thought about suicide. And then as the indicators increase, the person is actually increasing their thoughts and they're therefore forming ideations and plans to do something like that. So it definitely shows a progression. And in the class that I teach that I've written, one of the most popular classes is the progression of suicide. And we actually show samples of a father who actually had intentions on just killing himself. And within a 17-minute window, he writes a suicide letter to his wife and his kids, and then turns, in that short of time, changes. You can see his handwriting and his thoughts change from just suicide to murder-suicide, and he completely eliminates his entire family. And so that's just one example. But you can watch it just, when we do it in a class, people are just amazed. You can just see it.
Well, yeah, that in and by itself, just recently in the Phoenix area, we had a guy that killed his family first and then shot himself, and he was a bad shot for the self part, and he survived, and he's just getting ready to go to trial. So, he kills his wife, 2 kids, and anyway, we're going to take a break here, but before we do, I just wanted to let everyone know that you can write in on the chat line by going to hearwomentalk.com, get in on the chat, and then also you can call us if you want at Hear Women Talk, and it's the number's 914-338-1186, 914-338-1186. We'll take a short break and be right back with you, Tracy.
Look forward to it.
Okay, sounds good.